Hi, everyone. Hope you're doing well and are having a good week. I guess this is the second week of reading Exclusion and Embrace by Miroslav Volf. I wanted to send out a quick announcement video, things you need to know for the next few weeks. A few of you have asked me some questions about um, the final project, and then you have a group project coming up. So I thought that I would give you a couple things. Couple ideas about what that will take, what each one will take. Your group project will be next week, and it will be on the Israel and Palestine conflict. This is an opportunity to apply peacemaking principles to international conflict, and I will send out the group assignments. You'll be working in a different group than you did with your exam study group. I'll be sending out the group assignments on Thursday evening, and then also the particulars of the assignment. Basically, what you're going to do is you're going to try to establish the two narratives, the Israel narrative and the Palestine narrative in this conflict, and then do your best as a group to apply some of the peacemaking practices and some of the principles that you've studied in the course so far. So that's the idea with the group project. You can be as creative as you want to be. I've had groups that have been in person in class that have done songs or dramatic interpretations. I've also had groups that have created websites and things as simple as PowerPoint slides or Keynote slides. And so that's up to you as a group, but I'll send out the information about the groups on Thursday evening, this Thursday, so that you have time to prepare and maybe get your groups together and talk about what strengths you have, what ideas you might have, and how to take the group forward for the next week. So that's will be the group project. The second thing that people have been asking is about the final paper or the final project. So the final paper is a 10 to 15 page research paper. And in this, what I want you to do is to identify an ethical issue, which is usually related to a conflict. And I want you to articulate the different sides of that conflict, much like you do in the group project. And you'll find that this is one of the key principles of peacemaking in what I've talked about in previous lecture is to be able to understand the other person's tradition or the other community's tradition in such a way that they feel understood by you. And so to articulate both sides of the conflict and then to bring to bear some peacemaking practices to that particular conflict. So you will have you'll be required to use at least 5 resources. Wikipedia is not a resource, and depending on how long a journal article is, that will be considered a resource or not. 5 resources. You have to have footnotes and a bibliography, and 2 or 3 of those resources can be textbooks from the course, but 2 of them have to be outside of the class textbook. So that's the idea about the paper. I suggest you get approval for the topic that you want to work on, just so I can give you any advice or help on resources that might be helpful in your paper, and just to make sure that you're on the right track. Because this is so open-ended, I want you to be able to write on the things that interest you, but I also want you to be able to get a good grade on this paper, and so I want it to be as focused and the thesis to be as specific as possible so that in the limited amount of time that you have, 10 to 15 pages, you can make a clear and concise and well-reasoned argument. So that's the idea for the final paper. If you have a current conflict that either your church is going through, your family is going through, or someone that you know might be going through, and you want to try to do a project that applies the peacemaking principles in such a way that you can actually get in there, interview them, and then begin to apply some of the peacemaking practices, then that's totally fine as well. You just have to get approval so I can give you an idea of what it might take to complete the project in such a way that you fulfill the requirements for the class. So those are the 2 assignments. It's a standard research paper. The last paper, margins, double space, 12-point font, footnotes, not endnotes, and then a bibliography that cites your resources. And so those are the 2 assignments. The things that you'll need to know for this week and last week, by this evening, I should be all checked in on the grades, and your grades should be up to date. There may be 1 or 2 people that had exceptions on the exam that I'm still working on, that your grades might be totally not quite complete, but I'll try to have them done by this evening. So you can check in on your grades. You can ask any questions about that you might have after this evening. In general, I was pretty pleased with the exams. The idea with the exam is just to begin to get some of these concepts that are somewhat foreign to us, especially for those of us in the Western tradition, the arguments for nonviolence and creative nonviolence, the criteria for just war theory, including just war theory applied after war, and then the peacemaking practices and the grace-based initiatives of the Sermon on the Mount are somewhat new, as I've found and taught this course in the past. So just to get those ideas, it's just one more way to get them in our minds as we move forward as biblical peacemakers. And so that was the idea about the exam. Don't stress too much if you didn't get the grade that you wanted on the exam. One of the things that you need to focus on if that happened is the group project, doing well in the group project, making sure that you complete all your readings, and then focusing on the final paper / project. So yeah, and as always, you can email me and ask questions. Again, I would encourage you to email me to talk about the paper, and then I will be posting a few lectures over the course of this week that you can take a look at concerning some of the material that we've covered and what to expect in the next couple of weeks of the course. We've winded down. We're on the back half of the course, and this is the more practical. The front half was the more theoretical, and so we're beginning to apply the peacemaking principles to practical situations. And the first one will be the group conflict or the group project when we talk about conflict in international relations, which the peacemaking book was designed and written for those kinds of conflict. And then we'll talk about race when we read Park's book, Racial Conflict and Healing, which is a more, it's global, but it's more domestic conflict in our culture, and we'll try to principalize some of the peacemaking practices there so you get an idea of maybe how to do that. So yeah, please feel free again to ask any questions. I've really enjoyed reading your reflections on exclusion and embrace, and look forward to what you might have this week as well. So have a great week, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask.